Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Wednesday, August 12th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. It has been a wild few days in college sports, and at least now there is a little clarity. The Big 12, SEC, and ACC plan to play football in other sports this fall. The Big Ten and Pac-12 do not because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Big 12 decision became official today, and you'll hear from Commissioner Bob Bowlsby on today's show. But first, Kellis Robinett, who covers Kansas State, and I talk about the past few days with all the uncertainty, the arguments for and against playing, and how the Big 12 reached its decision. So here we go with Kellis. In the end, Kellis, where we stand here on August 12th with Big 12 football is kind of where we've been the whole time, with the exception of one non-conference opponent for K-State and some other Big 12 teams. They were always going to just play one non-conference opponent, but that didn't prevent the previous couple of days, I guess actually starting late last week, from being kind of crazy and almost tumultuous for college sports. But I just kind of think, we are where we thought we were going to be with Big 12 football. It just maybe took a little, a lot of thought from the Big 12 to get there. What do you think?
Yeah, they pretty much took the wildest detour possible to come to the conclusion that they're going to play football in 1 month. And it's been crazy. I never thought I'd see the day where two power conferences would announce that they're postponing football for a season and moving it to the spring. And then the next day, another power conference would come out and say, well, here's our schedule. We're playing. It's been very, very interesting to monitor behind the scenes. I was chatting with my wife on Sunday night, and I told her based on my intel, I was 95% sure there wasn't going to be a Big 12 football season in the fall, and they were going to follow the Big Ten and the Pac-12. But then somewhere, along the way, in just 48 hours or so, enough things happened that people started to change their minds. They started to feel a little bit better about things. And lo and behold, just like a roller coaster going the other way, all of a sudden, most of the schools in the Big 12 were in favor of playing and comfortable with doing it with increased safety protocols and everything like that. So it's been a very interesting journey at this point, but hey, now Kansas State fans can start pointing toward Arkansas State and on September 12th as their home opener, and every other school in the Big 12 can do the same with their teams. And yeah, we're moving forward, at least for now.
You're right about the timing. It was late last week. I think that the MAC was the first conference to announce it wasn't going to have a fall season, and that shook the college football or the college landscape, because that took away non-conference opponents for some Big Ten schools, and that meant something. If we remember how it went during the NCAA tournament, when how quickly the dominoes fell when one conference said it wasn't going to play or finish its conference tournament. Just in a matter of a couple of days, they were all off, and then the NCAA tournament was off. And there was some speculation that that's how it might go here with college football. Word got out over the weekend that the Big Ten was seriously considering shutting down, and if the Big Ten did, then certainly the Pac-12 would as well. They're tied at the hip, those conferences, not just with the Rose Bowl, but in a lot of philosophical ways. And then Monday hit, and it was, I think it was the Detroit Free Press that reported, as it turns out, probably jumped the gun on this, but they eventually weren't wrong, that the Big Ten was going to shut down. It happened officially on Tuesday, along with the Pac-12. But you're right, there was some pushback from the other conferences. I think the ACC, the SEC especially, were saying, look, that's that your medical people we respect them, but our medical people are telling us that it will be okay to play. And I think that a couple things that happened was the players pushed back on Sunday, especially Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I think that had a lot to do with it. And then the Duke doctor, Dr. Wolf, I think he opened some eyes with his thoughts about being safe to play. And then here we are today with the Big 12 making it official. We knew last night it was going to happen, and then they made it official today with a statement that the Big 12 was going to continue. So football in the land. We didn't know 100% when we talked to Chris Kleiman yesterday, did we?
No, we didn't. And this whole to show you how crazy this whole scenario has been, it seems like almost every step of the last couple of days has reminded a lot of us reporters about 10 years ago when there was conference realignment going on. Every school, every conference, it seemed, was just totally out for themselves with their own agenda. And it's been interesting to see the Big 12 actually make a relatively fast decision here that their fans wanted. Time will tell if they can actually play this season or if this was the smart move to move forward. But I would say, just based on all the information that was out there that you provided there a moment ago, with people saying that, well, there are opinions that it might be safe to play, and if we put in these measures, we think it can work. I bet if you polled Big 12 fan bases, I would say the majority would say we at least want to move forward and try to get close to the season before anybody talks about canceling. So it's been neat to see the Big 12 actually, I know they probably weren't that influenced by outside opinion. They were probably much more focused on medical opinions and how they can make things safe. But it's interesting to see the Big 12 for the first time in a long time actually come out and make a decisive choice that people like and want. It's weird. There's actually this sense of momentum in the conference right now.
Yeah, it was all eyes were on the Big 12 on Tuesday for several hours because after the Big Ten and Pac-12 made their moves, and the ACC and the SEC put out statements saying that they continue to plan to have fall sports. The one Power Five conference that had not been heard from was the Big 12, and everybody in the country was looking at the Big 12, and you saw on social media encouragement from around the country for the Big 12. What I saw mostly was for them to play and to continue the season. And but to be honest with you, I wasn't sure. I just didn't know. You were hearing it, and I was hearing a little bit as well, that there were some schools in the Big 12 that were a little bit skeptical about going forward and wanted to get more information. And I'm sure it wasn't everybody on the same page, I don't think, in the board of directors meetings. So
yeah, for sure, especially, coming into the week. I don't want to, name names or anything, but I can say at least 3, maybe even 4 schools at the beginning of the week were on the cancel side of the debate. And it took, this wasn't like a realignment situation where Texas or OU could come to the table and say, look, boys, this is what we want. This is what we're doing. They listened to everybody. Everybody had a voice, but the more they talked, those schools came over to the other side. And I'm not saying that it was completely unanimous. I'm sure there are still schools out there who think it might be wise not to play, but they got the majority that they wanted. They changed enough minds, and things, politics at work within the conference, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Word did not get out when we didn't hear from both sides, I guess is the way to put it, on Monday and Tuesday when there were some meetings going on. So, the other thing that occurred to me, Kellis, and I heard this from Chris Kleiman during his Zoom conference on Tuesday, and I heard it again from Bob Bowlsby today, is that when the student athletes reported back this summer in June. You remember the school that you cover, the Wildcats, had their little mini outbreak, right? Up to 14 players had tested positive, and that was happening at different programs throughout the country as they were starting to come back. Clemson, LSU, Texas, Baylor. The list is long of schools that were having small outbreaks of coronavirus, and I think the fact that the tests, subsequent tests, and in July and into August were positive, not positive, but the news was positive, and it's almost as if the programs learned a hard lesson, or the players and the athletes learned a hard lesson when they got back to school about social distancing and mask wearing and all the precautions that you're supposed to take while this virus is still out there, and I think that might have had an influence on the decision that the Big 12 made.
Yeah, I thought Kansas State linebacker Justin Hughes put it really well yesterday. He said that basically after those initial hiccups where Kansas State did have a team outbreak because a few players decided they want to get together with friends outside the team and play video games. Another friend decided to have a party at the lake with friends outside the team. After those initial decisions, and when they saw what can happen, when you go out and have parties and stuff like that. They put their heads back together and looked at what the NBA and MLS are doing with their bubbles, and kind of said, we got to take this more seriously. And Justin yesterday, when he was talking, said that basically preseason camp feels a lot like a bubble. He said they show up, at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. They're at the facility all day. They don't go home until late. There's not other students around. While there's certainly not, 24-hour surveillance from coaches and administrators like there is in the NBA out in Orlando, they're self-policing each other. There's not a whole lot of time to go out and do things that would put themselves at risk. And they're taking it super seriously. And as long as they can keep doing that, I think at least internally, they feel like they've got a shot to pull this off.
Well, and that's what's going to have to happen, right? When the season starts. And while I'm thinking about it, give us some dates again. When is the first game against Arkansas State for the Wildcats?
September 12th at home in Manhattan will be the season opener against Arkansas State, the replacement game for all three, Buffalo, North Dakota, and Vanderbilt falling through in a matter of 3 days. And to show you how crazy this whole week was, is I remember, so Saturday morning was when the MAC canceled and the Missouri Valley Conference canceled and everything like that. So at that point, I was planning on basically spending my day kind of digging up what schools they might play, even though I'd heard that it was probably going to be Arkansas State. But news was traveling so fast that it looked like there might not be football at all. I kind of scrapped that and started looking at other things. But anyways, back to the topic. Yeah, it's come full circle. They're going to start there, and then 2 weeks later, they're going to start at Oklahoma for their Big 12 opener.
Wait, so you're telling me Kansas State is actually going to start a league opener on the road?
A shocker, I know.
Yeah, that didn't go unnoticed, I'm sure, by the K-State faithful. It happens a lot.
They do get Texas at home on Senior Day, though.
So okay, that's a good deal. Okay, so anyway, a roundabout way of me trying to get at the point that once classes start, and there will be some students back on campus, there'll be some virtual, but there also will be students back on campus, which means establishments will be open. It really is going to be the responsibility of these players we'll see how much they want to play college football, because now they've had a taste of what happens when they don't take precautions and follow the rules. And we saw what happened over the summer. We'll see what happens now that it's just going to be a college football season where you can't act like a student that wants to blow off some steam or do the things that's part of the right of being a college student, going out and having fun and being in large groups and being together. Not if you want to have a college football season. You just can't have that.
Yeah, it's wild to think about. Normally when you go into games, really the two things you're looking at are coaching and talent. I think this year player discipline is going to be every bit as important, if not more, because this season might not be so much about who's the best. It might be about who's the smartest and who can keep their most players healthy and who can make it through a season most unscathed.
Right. Okay. All right, Kellis. Appreciate you spending some time with us. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, you will hear from Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby, who took some questions today in a media setting. So, Kellis, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, anytime, Blair.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
We have spent a week, and really it's a culmination of the last 5 months, trying to ascertain the best path forward. We've done that mostly talking to our student athletes and talking to healthcare professionals and scientists that are working in COVID research and care. We have evolved question about that. We're learning more all the time, and yet there's much we don't know. What we do know is that testing is the best way to intersect early after infection, and that we need to do a rigorous testing regimen. We know that there can be complications with this virus, and so positives have to be dealt with very carefully, and follow-up and return to play has to be carefully managed and appropriately diagnosed. And I think what we've heard from our student athletes is they'd like to play, but they want to make sure it's safe. They want to know what the eligibility implications are, and they want to know that their financial aid is secure. And we have made every attempt to answer those things. Some are still in progress as a result of NCAA council considerations, but generally speaking, I think we've been able to make progress and provide information, and I feel very good about where we are at the present time. The board heard from doctors that have comprised our conference medical committee and have advised us over the past months and weeks. We have also assembled on a weekly basis a representative group of doctors and researchers and scientists from each of the A5 conferences, two people from each league, and really a star-studded group with some of the foremost experts in this area in infectious diseases in the entire world. And so we feel like we, through the combination, have gotten good advice. Last evening we had a team from the University of Kansas that was very helpful in helping the board think through the issues. We also had a representative from the Mayo Clinic that works in genetic cardiology and that provided some very helpful information. And obviously the conversations with student athletes are always very helpful and provide insights that we definitely need. As Bob mentioned, there is a media release out that includes our conference schedule. Each of our schools will be having one more non-conference game. Those opponents will all be expected to adhere to Big 12 testing standards, and that would be the week before they play the game. And so we feel like we're fully as well prepared as we can be at this time to move forward. We plan to do what we have always done, and we've been doing it since April, and that is on the advice of doctors, moving forward slowly, constantly reevaluating what we're doing, making small corrections, and looking for challenges that we, in one way or another, can't meet. And so we have been able to put one foot forward and then follow it with another. And we've gotten to this point. I personally wanted to see us get to this point in August so that we could have a look at what preseason camp looked like, and to see what we might have learned to do as we went along. And frankly, we found that what we thought was golden 60 days ago is garbage today, and it's an ever-evolving environment, and we will find ourselves with bumpy spots during the fall. There isn't any doubt about that, but I think we're very well prepared to deal with those things, and so I feel good about the decision going forward. I believe our board feels good about it, and I think most importantly, we have some clarity for our coaches and our student athletes, and there's a difference between clarity and certainty. I don't think we have certainty in this environment, but we have been able to get some clarity. So let me stop there, and I'll be happy to address your questions.
Okay, your first question comes from the line of Robert Allen. Sir, please state your outlet and your question.
Yes, Robert Allen with Sports Illustrated Maven and the Oklahoma State Cowboy Radio Network. Commissioner Bowlsby, let me ask you first, how'd the vote go? If there was a vote last night, is this something right now that's somewhat tenuous, or was it more overwhelming that the board of directors wanted to move forward?
We don't ever characterize the discussions or the votes in the room, Robert. But we feel very good about the vote and about the sense of the meeting and the progression to the decision that we got. And so I don't think it is appropriate to characterize what individuals said or what occurred within the room. But it's easy to say that the board is comfortable with where we are.
One follow-up medically, you've talked a lot about the consultants you've used at the NFL shares at Duke, and I know another Duke epidemiologist, Cameron Wolf, advised the ACC about going forward. What's the latest, and when was the latest you consulted with your group of doctors that are centered out of Duke?
Well, Dr. Chris Hostler is on all of our medical calls, and so he was on last night. He meets with us with great regularity, and Dr. Wolf is one of Dr. Hostler's colleagues at Duke, and he also is one of the representatives that meets with the A5 group. So I've met extensively with Dr. Wolf over the course of the 5 months. He's well known. He's a top infectious disease physician, and as I said, a colleague of our consultant. So he's very, very well respected, and so we're very familiar with him.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Todd Lebo. Please state your outlet, sir.
Todd Lebo, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Commissioner, I know that you mentioned it in your opening remark that what was great news 60 days ago could be garbage today. The Big Ten put their schedule out and then 6 days later canceled the entire thing. I guess what's your confidence level? You don't want to say an exact percentage probably, but how good do you feel that this is going to at least get started for your conference?
Well, I feel good about it. It's hard to handicap those kinds of things because, if anybody is around that tells you that they can accurately forecast what's going to happen with the virus, they're delusional. Even the best scientific minds are unable to forecast with precision. But having acknowledged that, I feel good about where we are simply because we have good practices in place. And I think the other thing is during the preseason camp is about as close to a bubble as you're going to get with college students. It's different than professional athletes. You're not going to lock them down in a hotel and sequester them from families and the like. It's just a different task, both in terms of its the intricacies and the scale. We just have a lot more people involved than professional athletes. So the preseason camp where they're all staying together, they're eating together, they're training together, they're in team meetings together. It's important that we do the right things with regard to social distancing and wearing masks and washing hands and disinfecting facilities and the like. But it's also a good environment. And what you're seeing, we had a number of various sized outbreaks when student athletes first returned to campus. Now we have several of our teams that haven't had a positive test in weeks. So, I do think that within the athletics facilities, we can do a really good job. And I think a lot of the success of teams during this season going forward. And a lot of how many potholes we fall into has to do with whether or not young people can discipline themselves to, not go to parties where there are hundreds of kids in close contact and not be in crowded restaurants and the like. And you can't stop living your life, but you also have to be smart about putting yourself in risky situations.
If I could just quickly follow up, University of Nebraska is a former Big 12 member, and they've expressed yesterday that they wanted to play football. Have you had any contact at all at the conference level with anyone from the University of Nebraska about getting involved in any way? I know you guys already have your schedule out, but did they reach out in any way about playing some football games against Big 12 teams?
They have not.
Your next question comes from the line of Dennis Dodd.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, Dennis. Good morning.
Good morning. Two questions real quick. How important, Bob, is settling the eligibility question right now? I know conferences are going to cover scholarships, but the uncertainty over eligibility right now, how important is that to getting an extra year?
Yeah, I think our advocacy is going to be for just as liberal a treatment of eligibility issues as is possible. The NCAA Council is going to deal with it today and then again next week and make a recommendation to the Board of Directors. And I expect that we will get some clarity. Now, I think it's probably unrealistic to think that you're going to play 9 games, and if we got disrupted at the very end of the season, that you're going to get a whole year back. But it's probably also in this environment unrealistic to think that the 4-game redshirt rule is necessarily what prevails. And so, that's what young people are wanting to know is, hey, if I start this season and we get 5 games in and can't play anymore, I've lost the second half of my season. I've lost my postseason. What's my circumstance? If I'm a senior, am I done? So those are fair questions, and we have to give them some answers. And I think that there'll be some bright lines drawn, and I think that will give some clarity to it. Relative to the financial aid piece of it, however, all of our schools are completely committed to retaining financial aid for anybody that wants to opt out, and so that they can continue to go to school. So, the safety, eligibility, and financial aid are the 3 areas where student athletes really want some questions answered, and we're making good progress to do that, and I think they're going to have those answers well before the season starts.
Good. Also, do you expect to play for a berth in the college football playoff, since I think there are 50-something teams playing in the spring now?
Maybe playing in the spring.
Right.
I don't know. We have a CFP call next week, and we'll obviously talk about this, but it's gonna be a while into the season before all of that's resolved, Dennis. We just are gonna have to wait and see. There probably isn't any obvious reason why it couldn't work to continue to try and play a postseason, but you're also looking at a December-January time frame that's right in the heart of the virus season. So I just think it's too early. We're going to have to be patient and wait and see what happens before we can answer those questions.
Do you think it'd be possible to award 2 champions, one in the fall, one in the spring?
Well, I think you'd ask the logical question whether either one of them is actually a champion.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I think that's the question.
Yeah, well, it's a good question, but it's unanswered at this point.
Okay. All right, thank you.
That will do it for today. Thanks to the production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Tip of the cap to Kellis Robinett, who stopped by to talk K-State and the Big 12. Links to his stories and others about K-State and the Big 12 can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands, still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage. And that includes Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There are 47 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus extra news, sports, and business coverage. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with a new episode.